Welcome to How Hard Can It Be, where we bring in experts in different fields to learn about what it really takes to do what they do. I am your host, Carlos Guerrero, and today we have Osdany Veloz, a 26-year-old general contractor that has grown his company in just only 5 years. He has generated over $4 million and have done over 150 projects. Now, Osdany is here today to talk to us about how hard can it be to have people trust them as a young contractor. Welcome, Osdany. How are you today, brother?
Nice to meet you. Pleasure.
Nice to have you today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I see myself you 10, 15 years ago, right?
Yep.
I know exactly where you are. I've been there, done that. How did you get where you are today?
Carlos, is hard. I have a beard now, so I'm a little bit more credible. But when I was 20, 19 years old, selling projects is hard. I would walk into a house and I was dealing with people twice my age.
Okay.
And I would tell them, listen, it's going to cost you $10,000 to remodel a bathroom. And they're like, how's this kid going to remodel his bathroom, So it's definitely hard. And just being in construction in general, it's hard. Having the clients trust you, not only the clients, but the subcontractors, is definitely a big challenge in this industry.
Now, let me ask you a question. Let's go back to where it all began. How did you even get started into this business?
Carlos, I have the construction background in me. My dad came to this country as an immigrant. He brought me in an actual boat when I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow. So you came in an actual boat?
Yeah. They put everything outside. They left everything. They started pretty much from zero just to give me a new opportunity. And then he started his small company, which was doing countertops. He's a subcontractor. So he was doing countertops for kitchens. He's been doing that for 25 years.
So your father brings you here, he leaves Cuba, Fidel Castro's time. We all know how bad that was.
Correct.
You come here for the opportunity. Your dad basically comes here with nothing. I'm assuming you have nothing.
No English, no nothing, no experience, no background.
He's like, what I'm going to do, he opens a business in countertops.
Correct.
And now he's been there for 20 years.
Correct.
So then what happens? So he opens a business for countertops, you go to school.
This time I was in high school, he'll call me every now and then and he'll be like, hey, can you come to an estimate with me? They only speak English. So I'll go and I'll translate for him.
So that was the key. That's how you got into the business, by being a translator. You hear that?
Yeah.
So your dad's like, hey, Nick, you need to get your ass up. You need to come work with me. You need to translate for me and help me because this is what's paid the bills.
Correct. Correct.
Nice. I love it. So, okay, so then you go with him to do an estimate. How old were you now?
15, 16 years old, okay. 14.
14.
That was a long time ago. So it was, time thing that kind of opens your eyes as a kid. And then the clients will see you and they'll be like, look, this is my son. He's translating for me. So it was like, wow, it's a story.
So you're 50 years old. You're basically working for your dad part-time.
Correct.
Probably not really on payroll. He's probably, was he paying you?
No payroll.
You come, you want to live under my roof? You get the translation from me. So you go to your dad's jobs to translate. Then what happened? How did you, from going to that, obviously now you're doing over 3 million in sales, which is amazing, by the way. But how did that happen? What happens next?
Carlos, pretty much I started selling for him. So I started selling countertops for him. My uncle does cabinets as well. So I started selling the full kitchen, cabinets and countertops. So that's kind of what walked me into the industry by myself. So I would go give the estimates, sell the job, and get the job done. Then I started expanding. The clients would tell me, listen, I want to knock down this wall. I want to demo this wall. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it for you. So I got a crew of guys. I would demo the wall, pretty much turnkey kitchen, which is not such a big remodel when you're not switching too many things on the layout and stuff. After everything, the countertops were installed, I'll bring in some plumbers. They'll do the plumbing work and stuff like that. And that's what really got me into this whole field. When I started expanding.
Before we get to that, I want to deep a little more to the core, right? So you're 50, you're translating for your dad. Obviously, at that time, you probably don't want to be doing that. Or maybe you did want to do that. I mean, maybe you're in the party scene,
Not really.
Girlfriend.
Not really.
You were all in.
I've always had the right mindset that I wanted to follow. I want to be successful. I wanted to build something for myself.
Okay. You're working for your dad, then you become a salesperson for your dad.
Correct.
At what age would this happen?
17, 18 years old.
As a salesperson now, was he paying you or?
Definitely, no.
Okay.
So we established a price.
Okay. What was the price? How was the negotiation went?
I was probably the one that paid the most. At that time, it was probably $20 a square foot for the countertops. It was charging me $19. So I'll go give the clients an estimate and I'll charge them $24 a square foot.
Did he knew you were marking up his?
Yeah, he knew this was. This was an agreement. So he didn't care. It's funny. One of those stories is funny because there are some kitchens, I'll sell them and I'll get back and I'll tell him, listen, I sold this kitchen, and he'll ask you how much did you sell it? And he'll look at me, he's like, you're making more money than me. So then I was like, well, I guess, so it's crazy. Crazy how
it's a sales business. Now, so now let me ask you a question. The first thing that you did was translate. How do you go from translating to actually being a salesperson? What was rough about it?
Carlos, when I was translating, I was pretty much being a salesperson.
Okay.
You know, because he'll tell me, Danny, this kitchen, tell them that this kitchen is going to be $3,000 for the fabrication. And then I was telling the client, you know, the kitchen is $3,000, but not only that it was $3,000 that, you know, that he might not be the cheapest guy, but he was going to do the right job, you know, with the most detail. And that's how I just evolved into being a salesperson.
So from the translating period, you were actually getting trained.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what happened.
Win-win situation.
Correct.
So he didn't have to pay you. You actually were earning more than what you think you were.
I was learning.
You were learning, which is
the most important part.
Okay, so then you become a salesperson for the company. You not basically become a salesperson for the company. You basically created your own. You didn't use it in notice. You created your own business because you're selling on top of what his products. So like you're already being a general contractor by managing him, right?
Correct.
Selling for him, getting the deal. Here you go. So then you basically make the sale. He does everything else.
Correct.
And then who was collecting the money?
Well, no, I would collect the money and I'll pay him.
Okay.
So it got to the point where at first when we started, I would just have, you know, the clients write out the check to his company name.
Yes.
And then after that, I opened my little corporation and I would get the checks personally and I'll just pay him when
Your corporation, Veloz Contractor. So you opened that in when? How long ago?
I was 20.
Nice.
More or less.
Okay, so now you're basically doing great. You're basically got the taste of the construction. You got the taste of being a good salesperson. And like, shit, hey, I could sell. I'm making some good money. I always wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to do my own thing. My dad is crushing it. I'm helping him. And at the same time, I'm helping myself. What happens next?
I had to find clients. You know, you have to market. You have to find clients. And at that time, he wasn't giving me any money for advertisement, you know. His clients were his, and I had to find my own clients to sell, you know, the kitchens, what he does. So I built a bunch of flyers. I printed out maybe 5,000, 6,000 flyers. First place I went to was IKEA. And I started putting flyers in the windows of the cars. And then 7 days later, I get a call from one of the managers like IKEA. He's like, or the guy, the handyman or the custodian. He's like, listen, you can't do this no more. You know, if you do this, we're going to have to take precautions. So I couldn't do IKEA no more. I went to Dayland Mall, started passing flyers, same thing. And that lasted about 2-3 weeks. And then it just went off from there.
Yes, so the little flyers work for you?
A couple clients. And then from that on, it was just word to mouth. You know, word to mouth recommendations, and just people that were like, listen, I know a guy
that does countertops.
Correct. That does countertops.
It's amazing.
Correct.
Which was your dad, but you were the
sales guy, hit the middleman.
Obviously, you know, you're telling us a story. It sounds great, but you and I both know that through that phase, you had some bumps in the road.
Many.
What can you tell us about that? What juicy stories can you give us?
This was when I was setting cabinets. You know, my uncle one day wanted to install the cabinet, punctured a plumbing pipe, you know. So it was something that was unforeseen. You don't see the plumbing pipe in the back of the wall. So he punctured it. And little things like that, it's what builds the difference. I demoed the kitchen. We fixed whatever had to be fixed and we got it done. That's when I was selling cabinets and I had many bumps and many obstacles. But when I started contracting, one of my first jobs, I sold a condo in Key Biscayne, which was about 2,500 square feet.
Nice.
Tile installation. And this was with permits. And when I go to the association, so they call me and they're like, what type of soundproofing are you putting in this? This is me as a 21-year-old, you know?
What is that?
And I picked up the phone. I'm like, soundproofing. Hey, let me get back to you on that. And I was like, soundproofing? Wow. Like, I had no idea I had to put soundproofing.
Yeah.
And soundproofing is expensive. So I started figuring it out. And I'm like, oh, this is the thing that you put so the neighbors down here don't hear you. And from that day on, it's a learning lesson for me. Like every other day in my job, you know, you're always constantly learning and gaining new experiences and new stuff. So I took the loss. I put the soundproofing. I came out of pocket. I finished the job the right way, closed out the permit. Everything was a success with many obstacles.
Yes.
And then at the end of the project, I told the client, you know, I told him, listen, I was probably the cheapest guy that I gave him a quote because I didn't calculate the soundproofing. So the client was extremely happy. And I told him, listen, I have made a mistake. You know, I lost money in this job. So I let him know. And to this day, this client still calls me. He still recommends people to me. And it's, you know, something that I did that I lost money, but I gained more clients and I gained more exposure and more trust, more credibility to other people.
And that's so common. Like a lot of times, you know, new contractors that they want to do a business, they go into the business without realizing how much experience and how much things could go wrong in a project. From day one, if you estimate that project wrong and you basically say that you're going to do something, you can't back out. And if you back out, you're number one, you're a piece of shit, right? Correct. Number two is going to hunt you for the rest. So the good thing that you did is that you did back up, you finished the job correct, you were able to deliver. And by doing that, even though you didn't make money on the job, in the long run, you make your money back. That's how you do business. In any business, right? Your word is everything. So I think, that lack of experience that you had at that time is what hurt you, like anybody else.
And to this day, construction is tough.
Why is it tough?
Because you're still learning. At the end of the day, there's always new innovations, new things that come out. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to step out of the usual, the average, like back in the day it was 80-inch door. Now it's 9-foot doors.
Yeah.
Now it's frameless doors. Now it's you don't have casings. Now some houses don't even have baseboards. So it's little things that you're always learning. It's a learning process at the end of the day.
Now, going back to the topic, building the trust, what techniques are you doing to build trust? Or why has it been so hard other than your age?
It's hard, Carlos, even with some contractors, most of the contractors, they'll come to do a job and they'll be like, is this guy going to pay me? Like I said, a young guy, he's telling me this is going to cost you, $15,000 to do. I need a deposit. And they're worried. They're like, so now it's a little easier because, I've mostly handpicked most of my guys, most of the guys I work with, that my subs are handpicked, so they already know who I am. They already know that I'm not going to run away and not pay them. So it's easier. Like I have my plumbers go and they don't even give me a price anymore. They go, hey, I need to get this job done. They go, they do it. And at the end of the week, they tell me, Danny, this is how much. Come by my office, I cut them a check. And that's how you build trust with subs, with contractors yourself. And as far as clients, it's just, delivering.
How many deals you feel that you lost because the clients didn't trust you at the beginning?
A lot. Definitely.
Yeah. Any specific story that kind of burned you, that left a dent in you?
I just assumed that they didn't trust me. I assumed I'm a young guy. I had no beard. I look a little older now, but I was young with no beard. So
I'm going to give you one tip for you. Never assume.
Never assume?
Never assume. You always want to ask, and that's what happens as an experience. You start assuming, you start making decisions based on your assumption.
Right.
And a lot of times it's a wrong decision because you're assuming. What I will do is, if you lose a deal, which is normal, just ask. Hey, listen, I understand. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get better. Can you just give me a feedback? Why did you choose to go with us?
I tend to do that when I finish projects and stuff like that with the clients. I kind of ask them for a feedback like, hey, is there anything you would recommend for me to change, for me to just grow myself, improve myself. So I do tend to ask for feedbacks to learn and make myself better.
Okay, so obviously, how hard can it be to build a client's trust? Like the way that I see it, I'm a young guy, I'm an older guy, whatever you want to call it. You go to a client's house, you shake his hand, hey, well, I'm here to give you a prize. I'm the best. Look at my website. How hard can it be?
Carlos, when I was that age, I didn't have anything in my background to show. I had 2-3 kitchens I had done, 4 or 5 kitchens. So... most of my pictures were maybe from the internet.
So you had a couple of issues. You had no beer.
Correct.
You look young, like a punk, right? You had no beer, you look like a punk. Number 2,
inexperience.
When
maybe it wasn't even true. Maybe I had more experience than an older guy, which tends to happen now,
You assumed.
Right, I assumed, yeah.
And also, I think another thing that made it hard for you, so you don't have a website.
I don't have
to see reviews.
Anything to show.
You have Google reviews.
Correct.
Because nowadays, everything is reviews.
Online, pretty much.
But another thing, too, that I think that would make your job hard was you didn't have a license.
I didn't have a license. I didn't.
So how was your experience of getting the license?
Toughest one ever. I took my first test. I walked out of there. I submitted the test with 3 minutes left. And it was the big one, the county one, the 126 questions. And when I submitted that thing, I said to myself, if I don't pass, I'm not doing this again, ever again. I had just left high school. So as it was, I passed the test. I got home. My dad opened a bottle. He was celebrating. He was happy for me.
Which test was this? The what license?
For the General Contractor.
For the G?
The business and accounting. Or the business and finance.
So the first time you took the test, you passed it?
The first big test, I passed it.
Wow, congrats.
So then
what happens?
I went on 4 months. I was just slacking. I was starting to make money. So I didn't want to go home and study. I had to go home and type contracts. I had to go home and send estimates.
By the way, even though he passed the first test, he still had 2 more tests to pass to actually qualify for the GC. And that's just a small thing that you need to qualify because you also need somebody to sign off of you. You have to have experience and you have to have credit. And that's just the first part.
Correct.
So he passed the first test. 4 months later,
I studied, I got ready, and I went and I passed the second test.
Wow.
So it was like,
wow. So the first try.
Yeah, first try.
Which is very hard, by the way, too.
It is. And then I started getting bigger. I had no license then, and I was working, I was doing jobs. I was doing remodels. I was doing bathrooms, I got so big that I had no time. And then you have a deadline. You have 4 years to pass all the tests together to get your license.
Yes.
So it's not like you have unlimited time. If you don't pass it in the 4 years, you have to restart again. So I didn't want that. Like a year and a half went by. My dad was there on top of me. Like, you need to pass this. Like, you need to finish this. And I failed the test 6 times, the last one.
Oh, wow. That last one you failed 6 times.
I'm just blaming myself because I didn't make time for it.
Yeah.
And then I signed up and I spent like a whole weekend studying for the test. I signed up for Monday. I went Monday and like the 7th try I passed it. So it was a big achievement for me. I was terrible in school, by the way.
Yeah, so don't worry about it.
I was not an A+ student. I was not a B+. I was not a good student.
Listen, I had C's and I loved it. Yes, C, I passed.
Exactly.
See, obviously, most of your knowledge and your success comes from field experience, which, you have book experience and you also have field experience. I feel like having a balance, that both of us is important. Because I see great people that they go to college, they get this great degree, but they don't do nothing with their degree.
Correct?
Because they lack the field experience. Because what you learn in the books and what happens in real life
is nowhere near.
Two completely different things. Like the GC books that you ate and you tested, the only thing you did there is to get the license. But what you're applying on the field, what you're applying on the day-to-day is completely different. Especially if you want to grow your business and you want to be successful. You have to basically learn more things like management, clients, customer service, be a great leader.
Financially wise, it's a learning experience as well. And a lot of contractors fail because of that. I've seen that a lot of contractors fail because they don't know how to manage their money. Yep. They get a deposit and they use that deposit to finish another job and then to finish another job. And then when they're going to start the real job, they don't have the money to start it. So that's a big thing to learn in this industry as well. So that's an advice I can give to anyone starting off and stuff, Very important to learn how to finance your money, how to manage it.
Nice. I love it. Hey guys, by the way, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us. Also, if you want to be part of the show, go to www.howhardcanitbepodcast.com. So Daddy, going back to you now, obviously, your father brought you here very young. You come from an immigrant family. You came here with nothing. Your dad was able to start his business. You basically saw your father as a figure. Shit, my dad do it. I want to do it too, because you could have gone the other route, right? You could have gone and get a job, go work for somebody, but you say, you know what? My dad's doing it. He's my role model. I want to do it too. And I'm sure right now your dad is proud with how you have done so far.
I think he definitely is. So I want to make him prouder though.
That is so important. You want to make him prouder, And what happens is that as a person, you have to have a why. And that sounds like it's a big why for you, make your dad prouder. So, you wake up to work, you go to work to hustle because you have the why. I love that part of it. So now, obviously, you still have a lot more to learn. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have a lot more to learn for this business. Every day, even though I've been doing this business for 20 years, I kid you not, I'm always learning something new. Because like you said, things happen, trends change. You work with different clients, you work with different subs, you work with different projects, different
designers, different ideas.
Everything. So there's always going to be something new. Now, what's next for you? Where do you think you're heading? How are you planning on continuing your growth? What is your plan?
Carlos, my plan is to hire, which is another tough challenge. I want to hire someone that can do what I do, but it's tough. Sometimes you think that they're not going to be able to do the job like you do it. Sometimes you think that they're not going to be able to be as responsible as you are. It's the truth. That's been a big challenge for me. Like, I wanted to hire a project manager. I've tried, and so far it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
It hasn't worked because the attention I have to things and stuff like that, it's hard to find. It's rare. So I actually, I had a question for the end of the show, but now since we got in there, what advice can you give a young contractor, a young person that's starting off as far as like hiring and choosing the right people? Because you do have a very strong team,
Yeah, it's actually simple. Number one, you have to learn to let go. You're never going to find somebody as good as you from day one. You have to build them. You have to train them and you have to build them to become what you want them to become, to basically be a copy of you. But before you can even do that, you have to basically write on a piece of paper or on a computer, you have to write down the whole process step by step. Make it very simple. This is the title. These are responsibilities. These are the expectations. So you write everything down that you do and how you do it and step by step. Then once you have that recipe, you don't want to hire somebody with a lot of experience or that knows more than you and this and that, because in your case, you're probably not going to go to 40 yet to hire somebody and pay him $200,000 a year. Let's be realistic. But you have to hire somebody that has the mindset, that has your culture, that has your values. That's what you want. You first find somebody that has your values, that they're responsible, they're going to commit. Then you build them to become you.
You mold them.
Yeah. Little by little, you give opportunities, you give them commissions, you give them, you give them prices, you celebrate with them. Yeah, you lead by example. So now, going back to you, what tips can you give our audience? Somebody, a young guy that 15, 16, 18-year-old that basically wants to do their own business, or actually somebody that wants to build trust. What tips can you give them?
Start as soon as possible. I wish I would have started younger. Step out of that comfort zone that you're used to and just jump, and don't let nothing get in your way. I've always been a person that I don't take no for an answer. So when they tell me you can't do this, that's when I want to do it. When they tell me, can you do this? And in reality, I didn't know how to do it. I said, yeah, I can do it. I will do it. And at the end of the day, once you step out of the comfort zone, as many obstacles, as many things that you have to cross and as many barriers, it feels good to achieve it at the end. Definitely, it's what I recommend to anyone, that's starting. Just do it. you know?
Yeah, so I love what you said about getting out of the comfort zone, because a lot of people are so comfortable, but true success comes from you doing uncomfortable things. That's where you get through success, and that's when you could basically get out of the box. And number two that you mentioned is that when people tell you you can't do it, so when somebody asks you, can you do this? The question is not, can you do it? It's always, yes, you could do it. You could do anything. But the question is, how do you do it? So as soon as you flip the switch, it's a whole different thing. Like sometimes like you tell somebody or somebody mentions like, no, that's going to be impossible. It's nothing is possible. Man, wait to the moon, okay?
Everything is possible.
Everything is possible. Your mentally has to change about, okay, yeah, it's going to be hard. But the question is, how I'm going to do it? So by changing those two things, I think those are great tips that you're giving people, because we need more open-minded people to basically get those things done, think outside the box, because that's really what it takes to do amazing things. Think outside the box.
In any aspect, as any aspect, construction, whatever other business you're going to get into, or whatever else you're going to play. You're going to play baseball, you're going to play sports. You got to do it. You got to go out and do it. And just another advice I forgot to touch, try to find a mentor, try to find someone that you can kind of follow their footsteps, even though throughout the way you're going to diverge and go somewhere else. But I appreciate Carlos. I found him on Instagram, and when I was pretty much starting, I kind of looked at him as a role model, and I try to follow, maybe it's not the same identical thing that he does, but I diverge from it, and it's something that I recommend for anyone starting.
I love that. Yeah, it's so important. Everybody is a mentor. I have mentors. I have plenty of mentors that I look up to, that I follow.
Just like I followed you, and I learned from you, believe it or not. There's people that DM me and they ask me questions, how can you do this? And it's nice. It feels good that someone is looking up to you and they're like, hey, how did he do it? It shows that you're doing something right.
Now, before we leave, if people want to reach you, somebody wants to talk to you, they want your service, or they want more advice from you, where can they reach you?
I have an Instagram, which is Veloz Contractors. You can follow my page and see what we do. I'm currently posting stories and, showing everyone what we're doing, from like a full gut job to the end, and showing like the attention to details, which I learned from Mr. Carlos over here. And you can find most of the stuff there.
Whatever it takes, can't stop, won't stop. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe.